Got an Athlons magazine here, and I got to say that I've got a ton of respect for Athlon as well as Street and Smith and the rest of them, Lindy's. But at the same time, I pick these magazines up primarily just because they're a quick reference guide, and I still like to have something in my hand. Of course, you can look up all this information online, and the summary gives me a quick snapshot, like especially schools like South Carolina. I'm not going to watch a ton of South Carolina football this year, most likely. And I could just, bam, look at it. I forget what they've got going there at South Carolina, and you get a quick thumbnail of the team. Now, somebody like Texas, I've looked at them so much this year, nowhere close to Matthew. So I'm not comparing my knowledge of Texas personnel, but they're really not telling me anything in this summary that I don't already know. However, they've got this other section over here, scouting the Longhorns. So this is coming from an opposing SEC assistant coach. I don't remember what it says here. So this could be something that gives us something to talk about, or it could be completely just matter of fact. Everybody knows this, but we will see here. So we'll get your response to this. Quote, I think there's a tendency to look at the league expansion from the point of view of the new programs having to acclimate to the league, but this might be the other way around. You can't compare Texas or Oklahoma to those A&M and Mizzou programs that came in. They're going to pair the Bama receiver, transfer Isaiah Bond, with their other 5 stars and probably won't miss much at that position. If you're looking for a weak spot, maybe it's the fact that you have the most famous name in the quarterback industry, Arch Manning, as a backup, but that's a problem any staff would take. They instantly compare to the top programs in the league in terms of depth and talent, could definitely win the conference and be headed back to the playoffs. So I'm not finding a whole lot there, but I will say this to you to kind of narrow it down. When I looked at Texas, when I released my SEC program, or not program rankings, 2024 rankings, everyone. Program rankings are coming a little bit later. I'm working on those right now. But the power rankings for the SEC, in looking at the guys, I made a comment to say, Ohio State's been that program. Georgia's been that program. Maybe Texas right now is the program that can lose talent. And when I say talent, you can have talent at any position, but I'm thinking more like playmakers and JT Sanders, Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington, those kind of players, A.D. Mitchell, and replace them and maybe do it better than even Georgia and Ohio State.
If you're going skill players, I don't disagree with that, because funny thing enough, we'll get to it later, I ranked the receiving rooms, and I looked at Georgia's, and none of those guys, like, oh my God, they scare me. Like Dominic Lovett, he's a good player, but he doesn't scare me. I think Isaiah Bond, and I really think he's this guy I'm going to name is the most slept on wide receiver in the country. Matthew Golden. Just what I want when I watched him at Houston, I know the stats don't back it up, but he didn't have the quarterback play that he's going to have at Texas. He didn't have the offensive line play. Hell, he didn't even have the scheme. Like, no offense with Dana Holgorsen, but I think Steve Sarkisian's a better offensive coach than he is. And I think Matthew Golden's going to pop off in this Texas offense. I really do. That speed with his body, I think he's 6'1", 6'2", and he's freakishly fast. And then a guy that I guess has been just killing it at Texas since he got there recently is Silas Bolden. People forget that. That guy, no joke. So I'm sitting down here in my basement watching Oregon State, and I turn it on, and I don't watch much Oregon State. I'm not going to lie. And I said, who the hell's this guy? This guy's like a human joystick out here. He's flying up and down the field. No one can tackle him. And then when he jumps in the transfer, I'm like, we got to get this guy. He's like, he fits this offense perfectly. He can stretch the field. He's a great kick returner, great punt returner, as is Matthew Golden, by the way. And we get him. And I really like Silas Bolden. Here's the stats. I mean, he had a great year last year. So if you have Silas Bolden, Matthew Golden, and Isaiah Bond, that ball from there, Bond, Golden, and Bolden, I think you have a really good 3 wide receivers. Plus you have Jonte Cook, who was highly rated coming out of high school, didn't get that much playing time. He only had 8 catches last year. And then you have Ryan Wingo, the 7th best corner or wide receiver coming in the country as a freshman, who caught 2 touchdowns in the spring game. Those are your 5 wide receivers. Plus DeAndre Moore right now is actually listed as the starting slot wide receiver. He's been really good, and Jordan Whittington said he's next. He really likes him. So that's a really good combination of 6 players, guys. It really is a really good combination. And I would agree with you, Mark. I think if we're just talking about skill players, I think Texas does a just as good of a job as anyone in the country replenishing. We're not at that level of Georgia and Ohio State and those type of schools in the trenches, but if you're talking about quarterback and wide receiver, I 100% think we are.